Hi everybody, this is Deinonychus from Prehistoric Facts, and this special episode, thanks to Alvaro, he has actually asked me to actually talk about Deinonychus for this special episode. And Deinonychus in Latin or Greek means terrible claw, and, what we know about, and basically the length of Deinonychus is probably between 9 to 13 feet in length, and is probably between 4.5 to 5 feet tall. And basically, it's a dromaeosaur. Fossils found in North America, basically, like in Montana, Wyoming. Or probably lived around 120 million years ago. And it is a carnivore, and basically that's what it is, and it's a raptor dinosaur. And when we look at and see, my view of Deinonychus would sorry about the lighting here there, folks. It's kind of a little bright, but let me see if I can actually get it a little bit of a better view here. But lighting is terrible, but sorry about this. Hopefully I can fix this. If not, then basically I'll probably just give you a download of basically what Deinonychus probably did look like. But basically, Deinonychus, for its main features, is actually basically the main features of Deinonychus. And we look at the skull, is actually a very intricate looking skull. It has some bird-like features, of course, and when we look at Deinonychus, it does have these bony, these bony plates that are in the eye that help move the eye. And basically, that actually keeps the eye in place as well. Now let me see if I can actually get you the picture around here. Sorry about this. I tried to get you a picture, but the lighting is just not great. But even though, what I was going to say about Deinonychus is basically the skull is very intricate and very delicate, and also Deinonychus has a very delicate skeleton. So basically, like all theropods, it has a very delicate structure due to the fact that it has hollow bones, and it has actually got air sacs like birds. And probably when we actually look at Deinonychus, it probably is a very fearsome predator. And so the teeth of Deinonychus are small, basically very, very small. They're very delicate, though, too. So that means they're not really used to kill the prey that much. And so pretty much they're probably going to use them as basically just feeding tools. And also they probably did bite the throat area, maybe to actually suffocate the animal in order to actually make sure that it's unconscious. Or otherwise, if it bit through the jugular vein, it would bleed out, and the prey would bleed out very quickly and pretty much die within minutes. And so Deinonychus also actually has these long arms with these incredible hand claws, and so it actually does use its hands in a pretty good use, and pretty much probably use them as grasping tools to actually pull themselves up onto the prey. And also, a very intricate thing about Deinonychus is basically it actually can fold its hands. So basically, it can fold its hands like a bird, and that's why dromaeosaurs are actually close relatives of birds. And so that actually gives them really good flexibility with their wrist. And another feature of Deinonychus is that it is right around the feet. And basically, pretty much this. This would actually be the sickle-shaped killing claw right on the second digit toe. And basically, what we can actually see here, it's a very thin structure. So basically, it probably did use it basically to put it into the prey, and then basically with its strong legs, basically just get a nice deep gash into the prey to help it bleed. And that's probably what it actually did to its prey. It's probably made it suffer from blood loss and shock, and basically that's how the prey would actually become unconscious most of the time, and basically would start eating it alive. And when we look at some of the fossil evidence of Deinonychus, Dr. John Ostrom actually made a really intricate discovery in the 1960s. And what he actually found was actually right around southern Montana, where basically the bones of Deinonychus were actually found, is what he found was actually multiple individuals of Deinonychus in the same layer, which that indicates that that these dinosaurs probably lived together, behaved together, and hunted together, and died together. So pretty much that means they probably had a social structure associated with pack hunting. And a very interesting thing is that, and basically, they were actually in this layer of rock. There were four or five Deinonychus that were actually found, and most of the bones showed signs of injuries, basically deadly injuries. And so pretty much these Deinonychus died in battle. And what they were surrounding is a skeleton of a herbivorous dinosaur called Thanatosaurus. And so that actually gives really good indication of predator-prey relationship. And that is that probably the pack of Deinonychus actually killed this Thanatosaurus. And what is found with the Thanatosaurus bones is Deinonychus teeth and some teeth marks on the bone, and that indicates that other members of the pack actually ate this Thanatosaurus. Whether if it's like 2, 3, or 4 individuals that actually have been eating the Thanatosaurus, that's a really good question, and basically we still don't know the answer to that. So it's basically 4 or 5 died in battle, and then pretty much the others just took care of the rest, and which is basically that pretty much what they did was really dangerous. And pretty much this Thanatosaurus was fully grown, probably a little bit weak, probably a weak member of the herd, and that's probably how it actually attacked its victim, probably how they actually chose their victim. And that's basically what predators do, is they basically point out the weakest member of the herd, and that's where they go after the weakest member of the herd. Predators always go after animals that are very vulnerable when they're young, sick, weak, or old. And basically that's how they actually choose their prey. They're not going to go after a healthy adult. A healthy adult can really defend itself and pretty much could injure or otherwise kill a Deinonychus pretty easily. And so, but also another thing here, when we look at the movie Jurassic Park, the raptors in Jurassic Park are actually Deinonychus. In very interesting way is that Steven Spielberg, when he actually was going to create Jurassic Park, he actually went to museums and basically looked at dinosaur skeletons. And there was one skeleton that he was really intrigued about, and that was the Deinonychus skeleton. But another thing was that he was intrigued of is the name Velociraptor. And so when we look, and how he actually depicted this is that in his mind he's like, I like the skeleton of Deinonychus, but I like the name Velociraptor. So why don't I just take this dinosaur Deinonychus, replace the name Deinonychus, put it in with Velociraptor, and that'll probably make it a really cool looking dinosaur. And that's basically what happened. Is basically Steven Spielberg actually just created different version of Velociraptor, and that's pretty much what he did. And Velociraptor would have never have been 5 feet tall, and probably would have had a length between 9 and 13 feet in length. And that's basically it's because Velociraptor only stood 3 feet tall and only was a length of 6 feet. So that pretty much indicates that Spielberg, like most other Hollywood producers, writers, and directors, what they like to do with dinosaurs is basically they just try to actually make them into monsters, basically. But dinosaurs were actually real animals back in the time, and so that's how Spielberg actually came up with that idea. And another thing is that not Velociraptor, Deinonychus was probably covered in feathers, and basically with probably all dromaeosaurs probably had feathers, probably pretty much were covered in feathers, including the largest raptor of all, Utahraptor. And so that actually has a really good indication that these dinosaurs are really closely related to birds. Now, would they be used for flight? Not necessarily. Reasons for, like, probably since that there is fossil evidence that to support that raptor dinosaurs probably had feathers right here on the forearm, and they were probably long and probably almost looked like they were flight feathers. Probably what they did was probably, since they had that very rigid tail, that tail would actually be used as a counterbalance. Probably help them make quick turns as well. But probably what they actually did with those feathers, probably when they're chasing prey, is probably use them kind of like actual wings. But even though probably use them to help them turn a lot more faster than what their tail can actually do for them. And so, if any of you actually seen Truth About Killer Dinosaurs, the episode where they actually did Velociraptor versus an Ankylosaur, you actually saw that the Velociraptor used its arms to actually, with its with its long feathers on its forearm, probably to actually maneuver it to make quick turns. And so that's probably what actually happened with that. And probably an intricate thing though too. The feathers were probably primarily for display, because males would have probably been brightly colored, whereas females would have been a little bit more duller color and probably would have actually kind of looked more brownish maybe, whereas males would have had like these enormous amount of colors. I wouldn't say like a total rainbow, probably like maybe any kind of color you can actually think of. That's why when we actually see artist renditions now, actually see Deinonychus and most other raptors have feathers on them. It's because fossil evidence supports that dromaeosaurs were covered in feathers, and that's why Microraptor was actually covered in feathers, and that's why Sinornithosaurus is actually covered in feathers. And basically, the prey that Deinonychus would actually go after, like Tenontosaurus, that's probably one of its favorite food sources, is Tenontosaurus. But it probably could go after smaller sauropods, probably juveniles that probably are left alone, pretty much, like either Sauroposeidon or otherwise Polaxiosaurus. And so that's probably some of those animals that probably would have actually have gone after. They did also hunt lizards, probably pretty much small reptiles, probably some amphibians, and even small mammals. Those would have probably been the easier food sources to catch, pretty much. And then pretty much its top speed could have actually have been over 35 miles per hour, and that's pretty fast. And so these dinosaurs were really agile and pretty much had the speed to chase after prey. But basically, most of its prey was pretty much slow. But even though Tenontosaurus could run on its hind legs, we would never know if like pretty much what would they use their speed for? Probably like to maneuver themselves through the forest, or otherwise dense vegetation, or otherwise maybe they actually were just like they were probably like joggers. Basically, they probably had long strides to actually save energy. And also basically, with all raptor dinosaurs, they had good eyesight, they had good sense of smell, and good hearing. So basically, active predator. That's pretty much what they were. And they had a very large brain for their body size, and that really indicates that they probably almost had intelligence like birds. But even though they probably were able to solve problems, basically may had some capabilities to solve problems. Probably pretty much problem solvers. And basically with a predator like that, you need to solve the problems that what the prey is actually giving to you. Because basically if you're facing an armored dinosaur, probably say like Gastonia, you probably are going to be pretty much in a pickle to find out how do you actually attack this thing. It's got like these spikes sticking out. You got this armored tail where basically it's like a saw blade, and basically probably what Deinonychus would probably have done is probably have numbers, but even though it would probably have attacked the weakest parts, which was probably the legs, and probably would have gone pretty much right after the throat. And that's pretty much what they were going to go after. But otherwise, if you're facing like a sauropod, like a juvenile sauropod, then pretty much you would say they have no defensive mechanisms on that you would actually think of, like body armor. But even though they do have size, but even though they also have a tail, but even though they probably wouldn't have used their tail that much unless if it was a very serious, desperate situation. And so pretty much basically with these claws, pretty much make anything bleed to death. And so that's a pretty bad way to go. And I would say that I'd rather just be crushed than actually be bled to death with claws digging into me like this. And so I would actually say I'd rather be crushed by a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a sauropod. You know what I mean? And of course, extinction of Deinonychus is pretty much like new prey has actually been coming around, probably gotten bigger, and probably were harder to catch too. And also, newer predators were probably coming in too. And that's pretty much when you see the large Tyrannosaurs actually starting to appear. And also the main rival of Deinonychus is Acrocanthosaurus. And Acrocanthosaurus being the top predator, it probably had outcompeted Deinonychus for a short period of time, but even though it probably didn't do it for a long period of time. And that's why Acrocanthosaurus probably disappeared first, then Deinonychus, and pretty much I think climate change pretty much actually had to do with it. And that's why you see different types of animals to survive in different environments. And so the environment totally changed rapidly, and that's pretty much how Deinonychus pretty much became extinct. Alright, that's it for now. Now next week would actually be an answering questions episode, and hopefully next week I'll be able to actually give you a review of Jurassic World. I'm hopefully going to go see it sometime this week. It won't be this weekend, so hopefully I could get to see it probably sometime this week. And I'll give you my review about that. So that'll be an extra episode. So that'll be my movie review of Jurassic World. And basically next week Saturday would actually be an answering questions episode. So if you got a question about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochris71@gmail.com. Or the ways you can go on the Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris, like the page, and you can actually post the questions in the comment section on any Facebook post. And remember, keep your questions short and to the point. And also follow me on Twitter at CSGRALL. That's my Twitter name and my Twitter page, basically. And I post pretty cool stuff on there. And also take care of the people around you. And also for you younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education, because with a good education, you get a good job in the future. Alright, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week.